When this was said, the Niganta Digatapasi said to the Niganta Nataputta, Venerable Sir, I do not think that the householder Upali should try to refute the recluse Gautama's doctrine, for the recluse Gautama is a magician and knows a converting magic by which he converts disciples of other sectarians. And Niganta Nataputta said, it is impossible, Tapasi, it cannot happen that the householder Upali should go over to discipleship under the recluse Gautama. But it is possible, it can happen that the recluse Gautama might come over to discipleship under the householder Upali. Go, householder, and refute the recluse Gautama's doctrine, for either I should refute the recluse Gautama's doctrine, or else the Niganta Digatapasi, or you yourself. Yes, Venerable Sir, the householder Upali replied, and he rose from his seat, and after paying homage to the Niganta Nataputta, keeping him on his right, he left to go to the Blessed One at Pavarika's mango grove. Stop here for a moment. So you see this Niganta Nataputta, he allowed this lay disciple to go and argue with the Buddha. And in other places, I think he has also allowed another one of his disciples to go and argue with the Buddha. But he himself dare not go and argue with the Buddha. He should go personally, but he left it to his disciples. There, after paying homage to the Blessed One, he sat down at one side and asked the Blessed One, Venerable Sir, did the Niganta Digatapasi come here? The Niganta Digatapasi came here, householder. Venerable Sir, did you have some conversation with him? I had some conversation with him, householder. What was your conversation with him like, Venerable Sir? Then the Blessed One related to the householder Upali his entire conversation with the Niganta Digatapasi. When this was said, the householder Upali said to the Blessed One, Good, Venerable Sir, on the part of Tapasi, the Niganta Digatapasi has answered the Blessed One like a well-taught disciple who understands his teacher's dispensation rightly. What does the trivial mental rod count for in comparison with the gross bodily rod? On the contrary, the bodily rod is the most reprehensible for the performance of evil action, for the perpetration of evil action, and not so much the verbal rod and the mental rod. And the Buddha said, Householder, if you will debate on the basis of truth, we might have some conversation about this. And he said, I will debate on the basis of truth, Venerable Sir. So let us have some conversation about this. So both of them agreed to argue. What do you think, householder? Here some Niganta might be afflicted, suffering, and gravely ill, with an illness needing treatment by cold water, which his vows prohibit. And he might refuse cold water, though mentally longing for it, and use only the permissible hot water, thus keeping his vows bodily and verbally. Because he does not get cold water, he might die. The householder, where would the Niganta Nataputta describe his rebirth as taking place? Venerable Sir, there are gods called mind-bound. He would be reborn there. Why is that? Because when he died, he was still bound by attachment in the mind. And the Buddha said, Householder, pay attention how you reply. What you said before does not agree with what you said afterwards, nor does what you said afterwards agree with what you said before. Yet you made this statement, I will debate on the basis of truth, Venerable Sir. So let us have some conversation about this. And he said, Venerable Sir, although the Blessed One has spoken thus, yet the bodily rod is the most reprehensible for the performance of evil action, for the perpetration of evil action, and not so much the verbal rod and the mental rod. Stop here for a moment. So here, the Buddha starts the argument by quoting that this some Niganta might be sick, but they have these ascetics, they have certain rules, certain vows, and one of their vows is they cannot use cold water and only have to use hot water. I don't know why. And so because he needs cold water and yet longing for cold water and he cannot get the cold water and he dies with that longing for that cold water. So this Upali agreed that because he was attached, he would be reborn in a place where, because called mind-bound. So the Buddha said that what you said is not consistent. Earlier you said that the bodily rod is more important, or body action is more important than mental action. But here his rebirth is not dependent on his bodily action, but dependent on his mental action. Because of that attachment in his mind, his place of rebirth was determined by that mental action, that mental attachment. So the Buddha is showing him that the mental attachment is more important. It is the one that determines his rebirth, not the bodily action. Then the Buddha continued. What do you think, householder? Here some Niganta might be restrained with 4 checks, curbed by all curbs, clamped by all curbs, cleansed by all curbs, and claimed by all curbs. And yet when going forward and returning, he brings about the destruction of many small living beings. What result does the Niganta Nataputta describe for him? Remember, sir, the Niganta Nataputta does not describe what is not willed as greatly reprehensible. But if one wills it, householder, then it is greatly reprehensible, Venerable Sir. But under which of the 3 rods does the Niganta Nataputta describe willing or volition, householder? Under the mental rod, Venerable Sir. And the Buddha said, householder, householder, pay attention how you reply. What you said before does not agree with what you said afterwards, nor does what you said afterwards agree with what you said before. Yet you made this statement, I will debate on the basis of truth, Venerable Sir. So let us have some conversation about this. Venerable Sir, although the Blessed One has spoken thus, yet the bodily rod is the most reprehensible for the performance of evil action, for the perpetration of evil action, and not so much the verbal rod and the mental rod. Stop here for a moment. So here you can see from these arguments the Buddha put forward that the Buddha knows there these wondrous, all the rules, all the practices very well. That's how he can argue with them. So here the Buddha says that if one of them, one of the Nigantas, he has a lot of checks, a lot of rules, he's restrained by a lot of rules. And yet, when walking around, he steps on many insects and ants and all that and kill them. So, is it, what does the Niganta Nataputta say about it? Then this Upali said, because it is not intentional killing, then it is not greatly reprehensible. But if it is intentional killing, then it is greatly reprehensible. So the Buddha said, so just now you said the mental action not so important, but now you say it's, the mental action is greatly reprehensible. So he knows he's wrong, but he's very stubborn. He wants to maintain that his teacher is correct. So he still says the bodily rod is still the most reprehensible. What do you think, householder? Have you heard how the Dandaka, Kalinga, Meja and Matanga forests became forests? Yes, Venerable Sir. As you heard it, how did they become forests? Venerable Sir, I heard that they became forests by means of a mental act of hate on the part of seers. Householder, householder, pay attention how you reply. What you said before does not agree with what you said afterwards, nor does what you said afterwards agree with what you said before. Yet you made this statement, I will debate on the basis of truth, Venerable Sir. So let us have some conversation about this. And he said, Venerable Sir, I was satisfied and pleased by the Venerable One's very first simile. Nevertheless, I thought I would oppose the Blessed One thus, since I desired to hear the Blessed One's varied solutions to the problem. Magnificent, Venerable Sir, magnificent, Venerable Sir. The Blessed One has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. Venerable Sir, I go to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Let the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. So, after this fourth example, then only he considered that the Buddha was right. But he revealed that actually from the first argument, he already saw that the Buddha was right. But he purposely opposed the Buddha just to hear what the Buddha had to say, to give some more examples, because he was interested to see how the Buddha argued. And the Buddha said, investigate thoroughly, householder. It is good. So here finally, he asked to take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, and to be a lay follower of the Buddha. And the Buddha said, investigate thoroughly, householder. It is good for such well-known people like you to investigate thoroughly. And he said, Venerable Sir, I am even more satisfied and pleased with the Blessed One for telling me that. For the other sectarians, on acquiring me as their disciple, would carry a banner all over Nalanda announcing, the householder Upali has come to discipleship under us. But on the contrary, the Blessed One tells me, investigate thoroughly, householder. It is good for such well-known people like you to investigate thoroughly. So for the second time, Venerable Sir, I go to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Let the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. So stop here for a moment. So here is even more satisfied now with the Buddha when the Buddha tells him that don't be in a hurry to become my disciple. You investigate my teachings more. So for a second time he took refuge. And the Buddha said, householder, your family has long supported the Nigantas, and you should consider that alms should be given to them when they come. And he said, Venerable Sir, I am even more satisfied and pleased with the Blessed One for telling me that. Venerable Sir, I have heard that the recluse Gautama says thus, gifts should be given only to me, gifts should not be given to others, gifts should be given only to my disciples, gifts should not be given to others' disciples. Only what is given to me is very fruitful, not what is given to others. Only what is given to my disciples is very fruitful, not what is given to others' disciples. On the contrary, the Blessed One encourages me to give gifts to the Nigantas. Anyway, we shall know the time for that, Venerable Sir. So for the third time, Venerable Sir, I go to the Blessed One for refuge, and to the Dhamma, and to the Sangha of monks. Let the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. Stop here for a moment. So the Buddha having psychic power, probably Buddha knew that they have people, these Nigantas and other external sectarians have been spreading lies about the Buddha and his disciples, saying that the Buddha is telling people to give gifts only to him and his disciples, not to others. So now the Buddha is contradicting those lies by telling him to continue to support his old teacher and the disciples, the Nigantas. So he is even more pleased to hear that. So for the third time he took refuge. Then the Blessed One gave the householder Upali progressive instruction, that is, talk on giving, talk on virtue or moral conduct, talk on the heavens. He explained the danger, degradation and defilement in sensual pleasures and the blessing of renunciation. And he knew that the householder Upali's mind was ready, receptive, free from hindrances, elated and confident. He expounded to him the special teaching, the teaching special to the Buddhas, suffering, its origin, its cessation and the path. Just as a clean cloth with all marks removed would take dye evenly, so too, while the householder Upali sat there, the spotless, immaculate vision of the Dhamma arose in him. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. Then the householder Upali saw the Dhamma, attained the Dhamma, understood the Dhamma, fathomed the Dhamma. He crossed beyond doubt, did away with perplexity, gained intrepidity, and became independent of others in the teacher's dispensation. Then he said to the Blessed One, now, Venerable Sir, we must go. We are busy and have much to do. And the Buddha said, now is the time, householder, to do as you think fit. I'll stop here for a moment. So here, when the Buddha talks to a newcomer, he generally gives a graduated discourse. He starts with dana, charity, and then moral conduct, sila. Then the third one is that the result of practicing these two, charity and moral conduct, one goes to the heavens. But then even in the heavens, there is this danger, degradation and defilement in sensual pleasures, the vanity of sensual pleasures. And after that, the Four Noble Truths. Then he understood the Dhamma. You see, the basic Dhamma is that one understands impermanence. All that is subject to arising is subject to cessation. Everything in the world being impermanent, there's nothing you can worth holding on to. Anything in the world you hold on to, it will change and suffering will arise as the result. So Upali understood and became independent of others in the teacher's dispensation. This is a characteristic of an Arya. Once a person understands the Buddha's Dhamma, then he becomes independent of others in the teacher's dispensation.